Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Baum. Here. Camper. Cochran. Faison. Garrett. Hawk. Hazelwood. Here. Hicks.
Here.
Love. Moon. I know he's here. Shaw.
Here to work.
Whitson.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call the Finance, Ways, and Means Subcommittee to order for February the 14th, 2024. Members, are there any announcements or personal orders before we begin? Seeing none, we have a total of 14 bills on our calendar today, and we're going to begin with item number one. Item number one is House Bill 1693 by Chairman Boyd. Do we have a motion and a second? You have a motion and a second. Sir, you're recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, in 2019, we formed the Semi-Quincentennial Committee to prepare for this country's 250th anniversary coming up in 2026. And so what House Bill 1693 does is it amends the statute to allow the 13 members of the commission to send them or their respected designee to attend the commission meetings. And it also transfers responsibility for the administration of the commission from the Department of Tourism over to the Tennessee State Museum. Mr. Chairman, I'll take any questions.
All right. Thank you for this description. Any discussion? Representative Whitson.
Thank you, sponsor. Do you remember the bicentennial, by the way?
Mr. Chairman, I actually missed that by 2 years. Yeah.
Thank you. Just noted.
Thank you. Further discussion on House Bill 1693. Hearing none and seeing none, we're now voting on House Bill 1693, moving on to full finance. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes do have it. House Bill 1693 moves to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee.
Thank you. That brings us to item number two on our calendar. Item number two is going to be House Bill 1628 by Chairman Sapicki. You have a motion to second, sir. You are recognized on House Bill 1628 for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 1628 deals with our healthcare facilities. The number one climbing cause of assault in the United States is assault on our healthcare providers in our healthcare facilities. What this bill does is it designates that if you commit an assault or an aggravated assault in our healthcare facilities on anybody in those healthcare facilities, there'd be an escalation of that crime and penalty. I appreciate Chairman Halsey and Chairman Doggett for working with me with this on last year to get this in the position that they feel most comfortable with. And so, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer questions.
All right. Thank you very much for this description. Members, any discussion on House Bill 1628? Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsor, I was reading when you made the statement about the number one assault. Could you restate what you said, that statistic?
Chairman Sapicki.
Give me 1 second, if you would.
Okay,
Thank you, Tom.
The fastest growing, this is from OSHA. The fastest growing place of workplace assaults occur in healthcare settings, up 70 to 74%. There is a war being waged on our healthcare facilities on people that are committing violent acts against people that are there to help them. And this sends a clear message: is please do not assault the people that are here to help you.
All right. Leader Camper. All right. Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. I think that answers my question. I'm about to ask the same question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Members, further discussion. Chairman Sapicki.
Mr. Chairman, I little latitude here. I'd like some clarification on this. I know this has a fiscal note, and I've been doing this for 6 years in the General Assembly. And I just want to make sure, because standard operating procedures is if you have a bill that has a fiscal note on it, it's going to go behind the budget until we can find the revenue sources to fund that. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
That is correct, sir.
So by all means, this bill is not dead. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely not, sir.
And if this committee and the other committees in finance deem it appropriate that this bill comes out from behind the budget because they found revenue sources for this or any other bill, then that bill would come back to finance and be moved on into budget. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
You are correct, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you. Members, further discussion on House Bill 1628. Hearing none and seeing none, there is a cost associated with House Bill 1628. So without objection, we're going to place House Bill 1628 behind the budget. So without objection, so moved. Thank you, Chairman. Item number 3 is also by Chairman Sapicki, House Bill 1629. Again, item number 3 on your calendar. You have a motion and second. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. This is something we've been creatively working on. I know it has a fiscal note of $104 million, and hopefully I know that the chairman of finance will probably do their best to find this money. It is okay. Tennessee is not broke, not broke. But what this does is we collect real estate transfer tax on transactions that happen across the state. Our counties send this money to the General Assembly that we insert into the general fund to be used to balance our budget. It fluctuates every year, and I know Fiscal Review has a very difficult time in trying to rationalize what this dollar amount is. But right now, we could possibly, with the passing of this bill, take 50% of the real estate transfer tax that is coming to the state of Tennessee if we elect to forego this money, send this back to our cities that generate it, and let them use it for the construction of schools, the renovation of schools, and the maintenance of our schools, which was the #1 cause of the problems in our county budgets. The great thing about this bill, it affects everyone in the General Assembly schools all across the state of Tennessee. And as a member of the Education Committee, our schools need all the help they can get in maintenance. And this would be a way for us to send a message that we support our school systems, that we want them to have the best schools and the best environments for our kids to learn. And so, Mr. Chairman, I know this has a fiscal note, but I know you will work diligently hard to bring this bill back out from behind the budget with Chairman Hazelwood's blessing, I hope, and not indigestion, and we can get this bill passed to help our kids in Tennessee.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1629. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, there is a cost associated with House Bill 1629, as the sponsor alluded to. And so we will have to place it behind the budget and reconsider it at a later date. So without objection, House Bill 1629 goes behind the budget.
Look forward to coming back and helping our kids.
Thank you, sir. All right, that brings us to item number 4 on our calendar. It's going to be House Bill 1021 by Chairman Doggett. You have a motion to second. Sir, you're recognized for a brief description.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have an amendment code 13327.
Yes, sir. It is traveling with the bill. You are in the proper posture.
All right. Thank you very much. So members, what we've done here is we've made a few changes to the Criminal Injuries Compensation Fund, the Victims Comp Fund. I want to say thank you to Treasurer Lillard and his staff, the District Attorney General's Conference, for their work on this. This is 2 years in the making. When we first brought this bill last year, the Treasurer's Office went in and started making some good modifications to the way this fund is handled, the disbursements. And so this is just piggybacking off of what they have already put in place. And so this is something that's going to be really, really good for the victims of crime in our state.
All right. Thank you very much, Chairman Doggett. Members, any questions for House Bill 1021? I'll get it right in a second. Any questions on House Bill 1021? Leader Camp.
Thank you. Thank you for the bill. What are some of the changes that you said were made with the amendment on this bill?
Chairman Doggett.
All right. Good morning, and thank you for that question. There's about 4 different things that this bill does, this amendment does. One, and currently, and it stays this way, the claimants must fully cooperate with the district attorney's office. However, we've included some exceptions to that are previously only applied to victims of human trafficking. So if there were some hindrances that dealt with the age of the offender and maybe some psychological issues, things along those lines, there are some exceptions to that, but they still have to cooperate with the district attorney's office. We've also expanded the documentation that can be used to demonstrate or to prove that a crime has occurred. And we've expanded the reimbursement of mental health counseling services in the case of a death of a victim to include persons who reside with the victim, because currently it's only family members that is able to apply to. And then finally, the current requirements state that victims must report a crime has committed within 48 hours. There was, I think, 40 other states that had lengthier timeline, so we've expanded that to 15 days.
Hmm.
And that helps not only with law enforcement because of the caseloads that they have, but it gives victims an opportunity to maybe gather their thoughts, especially if they've been victim of traumatic crime, that they can come in and report that to law enforcement.
Leader Camper.
Thank you for your explanation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Members, further discussion on House Bill 1021. Well, there is a fiscal note associated with House Bill 1021, but we do have a funding letter. So House Bill 1021 is in the proper position to move forward. So if there's no further discussion, we're now voting on House Bill 1021, moving on to full finance. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1021 moves on to full finance. Thank you, Chairman.
Hey, thank y'all.
All right, members, that brings us to item number 5. Item number 5 on our calendar is House Bill 1843 by Chairman Reagan. I have a request here to roll this 1 week. So without objection, we will roll House Bill 1843 1 week. That brings us to item number 6 on our calendar. Item number 6 is House Bill 393 by Chairman Reedy. We have a motion and a second. Sir, you're recognized for a brief description on House Bill 393.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. What, as amended, House Bill 393 codifies itinerant slaughterhouses into code. And what does that mean? There are those custom slaughterhouses that provide a mobile service. So in other words, they would come to your farm, pick up your animal, and then take it back to the slaughterhouse where it will be aged and processed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you very much, Chairman Reedy. Members, you've heard the description of House Bill 393. Any discussion? Chairman Williams.
Thank you, Chairman Reedy.
Yes, sir.
Can this be used for any, I'm assuming it can be used for any case, like in the instance of bison. I have a constituent who has a bison farm. So they could, instead of taking the bison to the slaughterhouse, slaughterhouse could come to them.
Chairman Reedy.
I would believe that that would be a yes, but nowhere in here do we talk about bison. Of course, they're still a bovine, so it's I'm sure that it would. But what we had found in the history behind this, and even as a boy growing up, they provided this service. But what we found, and through Senator Nicely, is these folks are offering and doing this currently. But there's there was always the question: is it against law? Or do I need to be doing something different? And so that's what we're doing, is just saying, yeah, it's legal. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate the bill. I think it's important, particularly for those that are bison farmers across the state, because having to load bison on a trailer, take them to the slaughterhouse, really diminishes the quality of the meat that you try to take. So thank you for the bill. I look forward to supporting it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Williams. Further discussion. Again, we're on House Bill 393. Hearing none and seeing none, there is a fiscal impact to the state for House Bill 393, so we will have to place it behind the budget and consider it at a later date. So without objection, House Bill 393 goes behind the budget.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. All right, members, I saw Leader Lambert come in, so I know he's got another committee. So I will bring your attention to the addendum, item number 1 on the addendum calendar. It's going to be House Bill 1640. Do we have a motion to second? You have a motion to second. Sir, you're recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know probably every member that stands before you says that their bill is one of the most important bills we'll pass all year. But this one in House Bill 1640, I genuinely feel is at least at the very top of the list. We have hundreds of individuals throughout this state who are not competent to assist their attorney in their defense. They're literally not even able to communicate with their attorney. And unfortunately, instead of those folks being committed, instead of them getting the help that they need, they are just let loose into the community. Their cases are dismissed, and they go on to hurt and even sometimes kill individuals in our state. This bill seeks to resolve that, in that if someone is found by a judge to be not competent to assist in the defense, then they are committed. They get the help that they need and have a mandatory outpatient at whatever point that they may be safe to be released to the public, and their case just pins. It would just stay with the system. So this is an issue, and you may have seen in the news recently that it's been going on for decades. I mean, there's a very, very nice lady the other day that I spoke to whose daughter was killed almost 50 years ago. And at that time, they were trying to resolve this very issue. So it's time that we pass a bill like this. I understand, Mr. Chairman, that it has a fiscal note. That fiscal note is not insurmountable, in my humble opinion. I think it's 2.1 million. But I realize, I know this has to go behind the budget, but members, I do truly hope that you evaluate and look at our budget over the next couple of months and see if there might be a way for us to be able to fund this particular bill. I'll also be having conversations with the administration, and hopefully they may put it in the amendment, but whether in the amended budget through the governor's suggestion or through us as members as we form this budget, I really hope that this is one that we fund. So, and I do want to say publicly, thank you to Chairman Williams for all of his help with this particular bill. He has been intricately involved in this, and it's been a team effort, and it's just one that means a lot to us, and I think to a lot of Tennesseans. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's the bill.
All right. Thank you, Leader Lambert. The members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1640. Any discussion? Chairman Williams.
Leader Lambert, just wanted to take an opportunity here to thank you for this bill. As you mentioned earlier, you've been doing the lion's share of work as it relates to the legal component of this bill. But this bill, in its amended form, does recognize Jillian Ludwig, the young lady who was killed on Belmont's, just off of Belmont's campus this fall. Many of you may know that my daughter goes to Belmont as well. I had the opportunity to meet the Ludwig family, who have been here in the subcommittee and full committee in criminal to testify on behalf, as well as her roommate and her best friend from Belmont. This is a really important topic. Since this time and met the Ludwigs, I've also heard from my district where there was a very similar event that happened in 1970 that was never prosecuted because this person never got the mental health treatment that they needed. And so the hope here is that that the family of the Ludwigs and this family from my community will never have to face the pain because of these circumstances again in our state. And the Ludwig family wanted the bill to be named after their daughter, with the idea of extending her legacy, not just from a legislative purposes, but also because of her love of music. And so I wanted to thank Leader Lambert for his diligence and work regarding this. And I know I have spoken with the committee members in here about the importance of this bill, and I look forward to helping us find ways to fund things like this that are so important in protecting Tennesseans and her legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Williams. Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman, for those words. And the young lady that the chairman's talking about, her name is Lucy Fullerton. And I spoke to Jean Fullerton. I just want to say her name. I mean, it's important that we remember her, but bridging the gap from 1970 to today, and literally we have Miss Lucy Fullerton, who is murdered in 1970. And here we are in 2024, dealing with the Jillian Ludwig family, their daughter killed last year. I mean, look, y'all, we've got to do more on this, and this is a significant step forward. If someone's not competent to resist defense, they do not need to be let out on the streets. They need help, and they need to be, quite frankly, they should have guardrails around them so that they can't hurt themselves or anybody else.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this. I do think this is important because to me, it's saying that there could be some good in everybody if we look for it. And I think to have these people that we're talking about to get some treatment and some help could help them as well get back on a good road to life. Because sometimes we just don't give people a chance. So I appreciate you bringing this, and I do support this effort that this is a good way for us, I think, to move forward. We're trying to help both sides because as a victim and as the person who committed the crime, and I think it's important that we try to find the good, if it's possible, in both sides. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative Shaw. Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do want to be crystal clear. I mean, this does deal with commitment, which means if someone is committed, they would not have the ability to purchase or possess a firearm afterwards. That we do that in all other commitments, but that has been sidestepped for this bill. If it becomes law, that no longer will have a loophole that exists there. And to Representative Shaw's point, if at some point someone regains competency, then their charges can begin again. The statute would toll, and it just moves through the court system normally. But again, right now, those cases just kind of get diverted and dismissed in many circumstances, and especially in the case involving the tragic loss of Jillian Ludwig.
Thank you, Leader Lamberth. Further discussion on House Bill 1640. Seeing none and hearing none, as I think you can tell, the sentiment of this committee, I think we're all looking forward to helping you continue to work and find funding for Jillian's Law. And I certainly appreciate the work that you have done, as well as Chairman Williams and all the co-sponsors on House Bill 1640. So if there's no other discussion, of course, there is a fiscal impact that we will have to work through. And so we will have to place House Bill 1640 behind the budget and reconsider it at a later date. So without objection, House Bill 1640 will go behind the budget. All right, that brings us to item number 2 on our addendum calendar. It's going to be House Bill 1658, again by Leader Lamberth. You have a motion, a second. Sir, you're recognized for a brief description.
Thank you, Chairman. Be very brief. This just creates an e-felony out of what is now a misdemeanor for an individual to attack someone in an open courtroom. This literally happened to a friend of mine who was an attorney, was representing a client that he'd been appointed to. That client kept telling the judge that he wanted a different lawyer just because of personality conflicts or whatever. So when the trial begun, the defendant stood up, who was not shackled. It was in a trial, but he had been incarcerated up to that point. He stands up and just literally punches my buddy right in the head. He goes down. The court officers come in, and the defendant's laughing all the way back to the jail. And they said, "What's so funny?" He said, "Well, now I get a different lawyer." And he was right. And he got charged with a misdemeanor. To me, if you attack anybody, the judge, your attorney, the prosecutor, a witness, somebody just visiting the courtroom, I mean, the courtroom needs to be somewhere where if somebody gets attacked in there, that's obviously somebody that's a greater risk to the community. So this just puts it from an A misdemeanor to an E felony. And there is a small fiscal note. So again, Mr. Chairman, I've already got my marching orders. I kind of know where this one's headed. But at the same time, I hope maybe sometime or another down the road, it might come back out from behind the budget. But it does have it's a pretty minimal fiscal note. It's $25,300. Thankfully, this does not happen often in the great state of Tennessee, but it did happen to my friend. And it's just something that shouldn't occur.
All right. Thank you, Leader, for this description of House Bill 1658. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, as the Leader has already alluded to, there is a cost associated with House Bill 1658. So we will have to place it behind the budget, consider it at a later date. So without objection, House Bill 1658 goes behind the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I think that's all I have today, unless you want me to hang around for anything else.
We're good, Leader.
All right,
thank you, sir. All right, members, let's go back to item number 7, and we'll pick back up there. Item number 7 on our calendar is House Bill 2586 by Chairman Russell. We do have a request to roll this 1 week. So without objection, House Bill 2586 will be rolled 1 week. Brings us to item number 8 on our calendar. Item number 8 on our calendar is House Bill 1871 by Representative Bain. You have a motion to second. Representative Bain, you are recognized for a brief description.
Rookie mistake. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'd like to start by thanking Representative Reedy and the Veterans Caucus for his insight into veterans matters in this state. I really appreciated the time he spent with me. Second, as you probably all know, I'm carrying a few tax bills this year to shift the tax burden off of working Tennessee families, which includes service members. This bill would ensure tax fairness for all members of the Tennessee National Guard and reserve members of a U.S. uniformed service who seek exemption from the sales and use tax on the purchase of use of a motor vehicle registered in Tennessee. Currently, the law states that only service members, both active and on reserve, stationed in Tennessee or in Fort Campbell, and also those deployed to combat zones can receive this benefit. Tennessee regularly sends its National Guard members to non-combat zones, whether overseas or abroad. Currently, members stationed in the Southwest near the border cannot take advantage of this benefit due to the current statute's language. First Lieutenant Will Caffey is a constituent of mine, and he's the one who brought this bill forward and asked me to carry it this session. And this is a quote from him. "The problem is that when Tennessee units deploy within the country, we change our station to the closest base to communicate effectively. This oversight prevents my soldiers from benefiting from this bill. My soldiers will be on a non-combat deployment for over a year, and they deserve to benefit from this bill. This would also be applicable as Tennessee continues to send units overseas to non-combat zones such as Syria, Poland, and Kuwait. I know this bill possesses a significant fiscal note, but ensuring tax fairness for our service members is the least we can do for their service to the state and this country. I welcome comments and suggestions for funding."
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Representative Bain, for this description of House Bill 1871. Members, any discussion? Hearing none and seeing none, House Bill 1870, I'm sorry.
We're both
Leader
pointing the
Camper.
finger, we're pointing the finger at each other. Thank you for this bill. You know, our National Guard has been called upon a lot. Our reservists have been called upon a lot to do a lot of things that, you know, they may not have expected was coming, but they're just as committed. And so I appreciate, you know, your constituent bringing it to you, you bringing it before this committee. And I know the Veterans Caucus has supported it. So thank you for even coming to the Veterans Caucus to seek the help that you needed to make sure that you get it in the right posture in a way that, you know, people can, you know, really get on board with this bill. So thank you for bringing the bill. And I appreciate if members would really consider this as we're deliberating all the bills from behind the budget.
Thank you, Leader
Representative.
Camper.
Mhm.
Representative Bain, any comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Representative Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question, but I was going to defer to the leader. That's why I kept pointing to her, and I think she was trying to defer to me. But I also want to thank Representative Bain for bringing this, and I'm noticing that it does give enough time for the members to return after the deployment to deal with the exemptions. So I think that's a wonderful part also of this legislation, because they don't know how much time it's going to take to actually get back to their home residence. So thank you for that again, and thank you for looking out for our service members.
Yes, and just quickly, I think this example is really important. This comes from Will Caffey's letter. So right now, the transportation company is headquartered in Tullahoma, Tennessee, but for the mission, it's now headquartered in Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And so it just shows you that administratively, they're having to move things around, and they still want their members to benefit from the exemption. Thank you,
Representative Love.
That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other discussion for House Bill 1871? Hearing none and seeing none, as the sponsor alluded to, there is a cost associated with House Bill 1871, so we will have to place it behind the budget, but we will reconsider it at a later date. So without objection, House Bill 1871 goes behind the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Bain. All right, that brings us to item number 9. Item number 9 on our calendar is going to be House Bill 1727 by Representative Gant. Do we have a motion to second? You have a motion to second. Representative Gant, we will recognize you for a brief description.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. What this bill does is it permits the prosecution of a parent or guardian who allows their minor child under the age of 18 to be cared for by a registered sex offender or to be an unaccompanied minor in the home of a sex offender. This offense will be a Class A misdemeanor and requires the parent or legal guardian to act knowingly.
All right. Thank you, Representative Gant, for this description. Members, any discussion on House Bill 1727? Hearing none and seeing none, there is a fiscal note associated with House Bill 1727. We certainly do appreciate you bringing this piece of legislation forward. Looking forward to helping you get it across the finish line. But since the cost is there, we will have to place it behind the budget and consider it at a later date. So without objection, House Bill 1727 is behind the budget. Thank you,
Chairman, Committee.
Okay, I don't see Representative Parkinson. He was, okay, hopefully somebody's hearing us out in the, hopefully he hears us out in the, outside of the door somewhere, so we'll give him a chance. So without objection, we'll roll this to the heel. Without objection, so moved. All right, let's move on to item number 11. Item number 11 is House Bill 1864 by Chairman Faison. We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Sir, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Committee. Certainly be good to be with y'all today. And before I get the inevitable considered at a later date, could I share with you the importance of this bill? Thank you for indulgence. Every year before our kids go back to school, we have a tax holiday. There are certain things listed on that tax holiday, and they're basically allowed to go up to $100 on one bill, and they don't have to pay the state portion of the sales tax. I represent people in the lower socioeconomic status, and we are constantly wanting to push our children towards sports, to possibly get them out of other areas that would interest them. if you've ever had a child in sports, it's unbelievable how much shoes cost. Athletic shoes are not cheap. And we have 4 boys, all 4 of them are athletes. So my wife and I were constantly looking at deals, trying to find deals all the time. My assistant, Allie, who many of you all know that she's got children that are athletes. And she brought this notion to me that we could potentially help some families who would benefit from being able to save that portion of the sales tax and be able to possibly buy soccer shoes or football shoes or basketball shoes. So that was my idea on this. We actually took the if you wanted to, you could cap it at $80 for clothes and supplies for school, and then use that additional for athletic shoes. But unfortunately, F&A didn't like that. So it would be really cool if we could continue having a conversation of how we could help people and push them into sports and ideas like that. So that's kind of what the genesis of this bill was. I know that you're going to send it behind the budget, but it'd be cool if we could have the conversation some more and potentially do this one day.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Faison, for the description of House Bill 1864. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, as the sponsor has already stole my thunder, it does have a cost associated with it. But we certainly do look forward to working with you, Chairman Faison, to hopefully find the funding for House Bill 1864. So, but since it does have a current fiscal impact, we will have to place it behind the budget and consider it at a later date. So without objection, House Bill 1864 goes behind the budget. Thank you, Chairman. All right, that brings us to item number 12 on our calendars, House Bill 1651 by Chairman Whitson. You have a motion and a second, sir. And it looks like you have an amendment which rewrites the bill, and that is drafting code 013744. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman, but actually it just opens the window for additional charities to apply to hold an annual gaming event, the amendment.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second on the amendment? Okay, we have a motion and a second. You heard the description there. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none and seeing none, we're now placing amendment 013744 onto House Bill 1651. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended. Chairman Whitson, you're recognized.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This legislation will temporarily open the application window to allow community organizations the opportunity to have their charitable events applications reviewed and considered for approval by the Secretary of State. And I got a good feeling this one may go somewhere today. With that, I renew my motion.
All right, members, you've heard the description of House Bill 1651. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing one, Chairman Whitson, I'm going to hurry up and take this vote because I think we can get this maybe moving on here. So, all in favor of House Bill 1651 moving on to full finance signify by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes do have it. House Bill 1651 moves on to full finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. All right, I've seen Representative Parkinson come back in. Members, if you want to move back to item number 10 on our calendar is House Bill 1839 by Representative Parkinson. You have a motion and a second. Sir, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and please accept my apologies for being late. I had 12 o'clock on my phone, and I was calling Chairman Baum to work the bill, but he's obviously in committee, so he didn't answer the phone. But the problem I'm trying to solve is this: I had an individual to call me late last year, because they were in nurse practitioner school, and they were struggling trying to find a place to do their preceptor or their clinicals for nurse practitioner school. And we made a lot of phone calls. We called the Nursing Association to see if we can help. They could help out, and some of the other organizations and health that have nurses, and see if this person could get in a preceptor position so that they could finish school, so they can graduate. And it was a heavy lift. And thank God, though, just happened that the nurses were having a reception over at the Hermitage. And I just literally randomly asked one of the nurses that was there at the reception in the Hermitage if they could precept for this person, and they accepted her. And now that individual just graduated about 2 weeks ago as a nurse practitioner. Oh, thank you for that. And so what this bill does is it creates tax credit incentives for entities that would accept nurse practitioners for preceptor positions in our state. And you know, we're solving a big problem. Of course, there's a shortage of nurses in our state, and I tried to narrow it down as much as possible to put the focus on nurse preceptors that are focusing on mental health with this one. Now, I would love to have opened it up to all nurse practitioners and physician's assistants, but I was trying to keep the fiscal note as plausibly accepting as possible. You know, and I know there's a fiscal note on it, but I do want us to, if you will, if the committee will, let's pass it and let me go and fight and grovel for the fiscal note to be able to get it paid for.
All right. Thank you, Representative Parkinson, for this description of House Bill 1839. Members, any discussion on the piece of legislation? Hearing none and seeing none, there is a cost associated with House Bill 1839. And so we will have to place it behind the budget and reconsider it at a later date. So without objection, House Bill 1839 goes behind the budget.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, members, that concludes our calendar. Is there any further business that needs to come before the committee? Hearing none and seeing none, without objection, we stand adjourned. We're adjourned.